a big piece of news that dropped, because there really hasn't been much news to talk about with the playoffs, was Marcus Smart became the first guard since Gary Payton to win Defensive Player of the Year. And this was a fucking bizarre announcement. I had no idea that Marcus Smart was going to win. I thought it was going to be Rudy Gobert because I saw the finalists and Bam wasn't there. McCall Bridges was there ahead of Bam, but not only Bam, Jaren Jackson Jr. as well, who was my pick to win the award. And lo and behold, Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year over Rudy Gobert and over McCall Bridges. And this again sent the timeline into a tizzy, because everything sends the timeline into a tizzy. And folks are like,
Fraudulent award. Marcus Smart didn't deserve it.
even Bam was like, I'm feeling disrespected by this, but we're going to get into it. We're going to get into that in a moment. Celtics guard Marcus Smart has been named. Oh, here go the dogs. Awesome. Marcus Smart is the first DPOY award for Smart, who's the first guard to take home the honor since GP in 95-96. Peyton was on hand at the Celtics practice facility to give Smart the award. Smart tweeted, quote, really blown away, to be honest, incredibly honored, just happy to be able to get this award with our team and our brothers on the team. This is for you, mama, heart emoji, I love you. Smart received 257 points, 37 first place votes to finish first in voting. Forward McCall Bridges of the Suns and center Rudy Gobert of the Jazz wound up second and third respectively in voting from a panel of 100 writers and broadcasters. Smart finished the season ranked 7th in the NBA in steals per game for a Celtics team that led the league in defensive rating and points allowed per game. He was also ranked 5th among all guards with a defensive rating of 105.2 and was first in the league with 1.1 loose balls recovered per game. I'm not a fan of using the individual defensive rating, because I talked about this when I was, doing all of my awards. It was the defensive metrics in the NBA are not where they should be. They're not up to the level that they should be. But listen, we know that when the Celtics are good defensively, it's largely because of Marcus Smart and Robert Williams. Smart, who started each of the 71 regular season games he played, also finished tied for 10th in deflections and charges drawn, and had a career-high 3.2 defensive rebounds per game. I forgot who tweeted it. I think it was Nate Jones or Nate Duncan, one of those guys, and they were like, Marcus Smart won this award because of an elaborate PR campaign by the Boston Celtics. And I think that to say that you feel someone should have won the award over Marcus Smart is, obvious, right? This was a loaded defensive player of the year class. Gobert, Bam, Triple J, Smart, Bridges, Giannis, Draymond Green, of course, is going to be in there always. Robert Williams, before he got hurt, there were a lot of players who were gunning for the award and had legitimate cases to bring home the award. And if you disagree with Marcus Smart winning the award, that's fine. But to say that he doesn't deserve it, I think, crosses the line, because every year we talk about Marcus Smart as being arguably the best defensive guard in the NBA. Not only that, but he's someone who is way more versatile defensively than his physical attributes would lead you to believe. I mean, his ability to play underneath the basket, granted, he's not going to have the same defensive field goal percentage as someone like Gobert or someone like Jaren Jackson. He's not going to have the same amount of blocks, but just being a pest, being able to play with verticality because of his size and his length, like, he is a huge piece of the Celtics defensive prowess. However, guards winning defensive player of the year is ultra rare, because an elite defensive guard will look like shit if they don't have an equally strong or a comparable center behind them. In the NBA, you are only as good defensively as your weakest link. It's different than it is in football, where if you're a lockdown corner, you can play straight up the entire game and the quarterback won't even look your way. You don't have the luxury of that. You don't have that luxury being a perimeter defender, because 9 times out of 10, especially in this NBA, like, Marcus Smart can, within 1 week, guard Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox, and Chris Paul. Within a week, he can face 3 or 4 or 5 of the best bucket getters in the NBA. And that's not even talking about James Harden. That's not talking about Kyrie Irving. We're not mentioning CJ McCollum or DeJounte Murray or any of the other elite guards that populate the NBA. D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, fucking Damian Lillard. Being a guard in today's NBA is tough. And because there's so much talent, these guys are gonna beat you. Okay? You're gonna get beat on the perimeter a couple of times a game if you're Marcus Smart. And depending on what your help defense looks like, that's gonna really impact you holding someone to 7 of 19 shooting or 17 of 19 shooting. And Robert Williams and Marcus Smart impacted each other symbiotically because Marcus Smart can play more aggressively, knowing that Robert Williams or Al Horford is behind him, which is why he gets a lot of deflections, which is why he gets a lot of steals, which is why, he holds his opponents to a respectable shooting percentage from deep. But if he doesn't have that behind him, it clouds how people judge Marcus Smart as a defender. And centers being, the last line of defense, guys like Rudy, Draymond, Bam, going back to Ben Wallace and Tim Duncan and Hakeem Olajuwon, they are the last line of defense. And if they're getting all the blocks and they're altering all the shots and they're the premier defender, obviously they're going to get all of the accolades. But just knowing how elite the Celtics defense has been and knowing how they were able to turn their season around, I felt that Robert Williams was going to win the award if he didn't get hurt. But then, applying that same logic to Jaren Jackson Jr. as being the last line of defense for a Grizzlies team that was one of the best teams in basketball. But I'm not here trying to dismiss Marcus Smart as a defender like some other people are just because of this elaborate PR campaign that the Celtics ran. But I want to quickly I want to react to what Bam Adebayo had to say about this because I love when NBA players talk spicy about one another and they're always like, oh, I'm disrespected by this. It's like, okay, dude, I get it. A couple of hours after the Heat opened up their postseason run with a dominant 115-91 win over Atlanta on Sunday, the NBA announced the finalists for the 2021-22 regular season awards. Heat coach Eric Spoelstra was named one of the top 3 candidates for Coach of the Year. Tyler Hero was top 3 candidates for Sixth Man of the Year. The defensive player pool, however, did not include Bam Adebayo. Quote, I'm just really stunned that Bam's not a finalist. I don't know what people are watching, and he's played in enough games, so I don't want to hear that excuse either. Adebayo played in 56 games for the Heat, who boasted the 4th best defensive rating. See, this is excellent because Bam played in a little bit more than half the season. And a reason why I didn't want to give the award to Robert Williams is because Rob played in 61 games and I felt that wasn't enough. So if we're going to make this case for Bam, then go ahead and give the award to Robert Williams because Robert Williams was the best defender on the best defensive team in the NBA. He was edged by Marcus Smart of the Boston Celtics, who played 71 games for the number 1 rated defense, McCall Bridges of the Suns, who played 82 games for the 3rd best defense, and Gobert, who played 66 games for the 10th rated defense. I can't believe the Jazz were that bad of a defensive team this year. Disrespectful, said Adebayo Monday when asked of the finalists. I feel like I can do anything that 2 out of the 3 can do. Besides, I can't teach height, but all 3 play on TV more than me, so I would expect that. They get more TV games and they get more exposure. People like to talk about them more. Don't want to talk about us, so it's whatever at this point. That's awesome because I think that Miami is the 3rd biggest media market in the country behind New York and Los Angeles. Miami is 18th. How? So it goes New York, LA, Chicago, Philly, DFW, Oakland. Listen, man. All right, so I was a little bit off on that. But still, you play in Miami. Marcus Smart plays in Boston. And Rudy Gobert plays in fucking Utah. No one talks about the Utah Jazz ever. No one on the East Coast talks about any West Coast team because we're all asleep while they're playing. Bam should have just came out and said, I don't understand. Instead of playing the media market thing. Because what do you mean no one's talking about the Heat? You guys are the best team in the East. You literally put the smackdown on the Atlanta Hawks. Everyone couldn't shut the fuck up about Trae Young shooting 1 of 12 or 1 of 8 or whatever he finished with. All right, let's continue. I feel that's why a lot of dudes do get a lot of awards, in my opinion. They're always on TV getting to showcase their talent and just so happen to have good games. This is hilarious. by the way, because two of the three two of the three finalists for MVP this year play in mid-sized markets in Denver and Milwaukee. I would much rather hear an athlete just come out and say that the voters don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because that's actually true a lot of the time. Like, the media can't vote for shit. The players also can't vote for shit either, and that's evidenced by the All-Star ballots when they come out. Generally, only the coaches tend to vote, quote unquote, properly, but I don't want coaches voting for any of the major awards because like I think it would just get super wacky. But to use the media market excuse is very interesting because that is also like what people in the media say to justify their favorite guys not winning the awards. I mean, I think it's just kind of silly, and I'd much rather just listen to athletes be spicy, like, truthfully. The frustration is we don't get as many games on TV as they do. That's the only thing that's frustrating because I feel like if I had as many TV games as them, it wouldn't be I'm out of the finalists and this, that, and the third. Just watch any one of our games, Spolstra said. You have a defensive system that's built around toughness and versatility, and it's not a cliche. It's not just a thing you can throw out there that he can literally guard 1 through 5. You can count on one hand in the association of 450 how many guys that can legitimately say that they compete on the ball 1 through 5 at all 5 positions. Nobody is saying that Bam can't do all these things. It's just that he got rooked in the voting. 100%. Listen, would I have put Gobert as a finalist over Bam? Probably not. But ultimately, when I was thinking about this award, I was only thinking about Robert Williams and Jaren Jackson Jr. Those were the only guys.